All right, you guessed it. It's time to actually look at the layouts of these. So for everything except for that one, I forget what it was. I think it was the box. Everything else has the Illustrator or Photoshop. And again, I don't care which one you work in. It's fine. So let's just go ahead and open all of these. If this happens, just go ahead and hit yes. Some of the updates do that. And I'm just going to hold down my shift key. Oops, shift key. And double click, and they're just going to all open up. I have everything opened. You're only going to have whichever option of the game it is that you're working on. But I wanted to go over each of these so that you can see them. So that way you can see it in Photoshop, and then that way you can see it in Illustrator also. So this is the 2.5 by 3.5 standard poker card template. And for this one, you're actually designing all the way to the edge. So if your card, and I'm actually ignoring what they say your artwork here, I'm gonna actually make my own on top of it, just for demo's sake, so that you can see what happens. They also have at the end, please note, remove this. That goes for everything. So whenever you get to the print stage, let's just remove this whole group. It looks like they have them grouped. Boop. How do they have this group? There we go. Ignore the your artwork here. They don't know what they're saying. Just go ahead and design on top. I'm actually going to go and lock that. And at the end, I'm going to just hide it whenever I export. What I would recommend doing is setting up, and I'm only going to do this for this one. Just note that the directions stay, the same for all of them. I'm going to put lines. So the red line, let's read. So step number 1, read. The first step, it says, safe zone. Do not place any important text or images beyond this dotted line. So anything that's beyond that dotted line, this would be the margin if we were in design. This is the safety zone. It's gonna be fine. It's not gonna get cut off. The trim line is actually where it gets cut off. So I'm gonna just zoom in. All right, so our safe zone is the dashed line. Our trim is the red. This is where it actually gets cut. This gray, and it goes the whole way to the edge, that's the bleed. So they already put the bleed on there. So if you have a texture or shapes that are going to run to the edge, run them the whole way to the safety. If you are, for some reason, going to put a border on it, that's like your border is going to be this big. Borders can be, side note, really tricky when it comes to cards or games in generals. I tend to say, try to stay away from a border. You don't need an outline on everything. So in this one, try to think shape rather than line for whatever objects you're working on. And also it says, please note, remove this layer. All right, I'm gonna go back to setting my guides. So when in doubt, start by reading. All right, let's put the safety. Let's put the cut, safety. And do this for all 4 corners, because whenever we start working, it's gonna hide everything. So let's say I want this weird yellow as my poker deck or whatever it is I'm building. That's actually really hard to see. Let's calm that down a little bit. That's still hard to see. All right, there we go. That's a little bit better. So this is where it's gonna get cut. This is where you are safe. Now, these are still movable. This is one of those rare times I'm like, you might want to lock these. There we are, lock guides. I don't do that too often, but if there's a chance, oops, that's gonna wiggle, I am gonna lock it down in place. So if I don't know, I used to do deck of cards for my art appreciation classes. So if I wanted this weird little, and I used to do the weird little shapes like art appreciation and then like a color in the middle, now we can use, and I'm gonna make a new layer, dump it in, and then that way you can see how this functions. I'm gonna deselect. It goes to that edge. So you're going the whole way to the bleed, it gets cut there, but it's safe there. So if I wanted, oops, oh, yes, I know it is, because I'm not working down there. Thank you, Photoshop. Let's see if it makes, oh, I swear to God, I'm just going to delete these now, because that's going to bug me. So 1 second, boop, boop, group. Okay, there we go. Hey, art appreciation. I can't tell if I'm spelling it right. Art Appreciation. Okay, I think that's right. So if I was making my art appreciation, let's say this is for the back of my cards. Oops. There we go. Then I'm going to hold that shift key down, constrain, art appreciation, madness, or whatever it is. So this, you will probably only have to design one back if you're doing a card deck, because you want, for the most part, everything to be consistent. Now, if it's like, I don't know, like a Monopoly where you have your chance cards, I forget what the other ones are called, and they have like, I'll say a red back and a blue back, yeah, then you have two. But if it's something like a poker deck, yeah, you're only going to have one. So for, say, a poker deck, you will have probably just one back. Oracle, Tarot, probably just one deck. If you have a board game, you can have multiple backs, but it's going to be up to you to project manage that one. All your images that you want to not be cut off has to stay inside, all the type, etc. So for that, so here's the poker card in Photoshop. Here it is in Illustrator. Lo and behold, you guessed it, exactly the same. The box. So for the box that I chose, if I was going to do the 10 by 10, I think it was game, for economical choices, the cheaper version is to just design the top and the rest is all plain. So this one's pretty straightforward. Just think of your hierarchy. What imagery are you using? And then have your header. And I would say, like, have the number of players, the age range. Like, look at an actual board game box on our friend the Webernet if you don't have any at hand, and see how they lay it out, and try to emulate what content is on there in your own manner. This is the one I don't think we had in Illustrator. So here's the square board in Illustrator. You guessed it, safe, trim, bleed the border. This one is saying for the board, don't do a border, because it's really hard, because what ends up happening with the boards is not only is it cut out, but it has to be folded under and then another piece glued on top. So a border is going to make it really sort of wonky. So avoid that. And I'm just going to Command zeros so we can see it. Illustrator, there's the board also. And then the box itself. So the box itself might be a little trickier, but you're going to do the same thing. You're going to know that it's going to curve. So let's go ahead and make a new layer. And then you would set up the same sort of marks here. And I'm not going to do all of these. And then you would do the same over here. And I would say print your boxes out so that you can look at them and be like, well, wait, what was this line again? And I'm just going to do the folds first. All right. And then we would have kept going if we so desired. And then you're going to have one more for where your safety is. And so what's nice is the safety is going to work the whole way across. But what's going to happen, and I'm going to hide this part, all of it. There we go. And you're like, whoa, wait, where was this? So that way it's kind of nice. I would say for this one, I would keep the cuts just so I could see where the curves is, because then you'll be able to tell where the safety is from there. But then you can get rid of all the hidden whenever you actually start designing. Gray. So if it's a color that's going to go over all of it, I'm going to paint bucket it. It's going to go over all of it. Then I would say lock it, hide it, and then start building from here. Another thing I always recommend, when you print these out, print two, and then actually cut one out and fold it and use it as a mock-up. That way you can be like, okay, where does my title go? Where does this go? Where does that go? And then that way when it's flat, you can design by looking off of it. It makes life a little bit easier for that. Same dealio, the box over here. And I would do the exact same thing. Keep that one, like, so you can see where the curves are. Hide or delete the others once you have your guides and rulers set up. So for this, this comes after whatever it is you've been brainstorming. If you're going to do the board game, then you have to also think about what kind of pieces do you need, and you have to check out what they have or what you can make. This project is a lot of fun, actually, because you can go all sorts of crazy with it. Some of my students at the other school made their game and then actually put it on the store and bought a couple, and then they sell it at trade and craft shows, etc. So you can profit off of this. So let's play the profit game, because I know a lot of people worry about like the freelancy side of design. Uh, if you look at Kickstarter, there's an awful lot of like card game, like poker sets, sorry, poker boxes and tarot sets. And they go for a pretty good amount. So like if you're charging on Kickstarter to get it going for like $15 to $20, well, that box might only cost you 10 or sorry, 5 with a little bit of shipping. So you can easily double your profit margin from this. So I'm not saying think about money when you're doing this, but just know that this is your practice to learn something that might actually be able to make you some funds in the future. So use this as the practice mode for this. All right, the next one, I'm going to talk about the actual project, and then we'll go from there.